a theme, and today is supposed to be Big Wind Day. So, and it's not wind, it's wind like in a really strong wind, like hurricane type wind. And it made me think of a couple different things to do. Whenever I think wind, I think air. Whenever I think air, I think breathe and breath, and spirit. So today's theme, am I loud enough? So today's theme is Big Wind Day, and so with a couple things that has been going on, I figured it'd be a great way for us to reconnect with some different pranayamas, the different kind of breathing techniques, and this way you have all these different techniques under your own belt, even if you have one of those big brass kind of belt now. So you have those underneath your belt that you can always pull out whenever you need it. The other thing is I'm going to make this into a restorative yoga class at the end. But with that, I'd like for us to be a little bit mindful. We're going to actually do this standing up first. I know we're going to stand up. I'd like for you to get into a nice standing position. I'm going to use this based on 1 Kings 19. So you can go into your Bible later on. And let's do this, unless you want to stand wider if you're running all weekend, but have yourself in a mountain pose where your big toes are touching each other, your heels are slightly apart. Have your shoulders away from your ears, down and back. Now, when you're standing, I'd like for you to feel how your feet are relative to the ground. Notice if there's any pronation, if it's kind of rotating inward or outward. Try to have it nice and balanced around the 4 press points, both sides of the heels, and the big and then the outside part of the balls. And then if you were to check in, see if you're stacking on top. So is your shoulders kind of stacked over your hips? If you look down at your rib cage, can you kind of see your rib cage? Or are you kind of always leaning forward? Or are you kind of leaning back? I've been catching myself a lot this week because I've been on the computer a lot, that I'm kind of leaning forward all the time. So when you do that, you'll notice how your core is actually activating. So if you were to peek down, you can kind of see like, okay, I'm stacked on top. Then have your chin parallel to the floor, the crown of your head up toward heaven. And then you're going to feel a slight little engagement of your knees. So it's a little bit tight. You try to not tighten up your glutes too much. You don't have to have too much an arch of your spine, but you don't want to flatten it either. So it's in that neutral spine, but it's a little bit of engagement. So it's amazing how much you're really using your all the muscles internally as you're standing here. So if you like, you can close your eyes, but you can always keep it open. And we're just going to breathe here. And so we're in mountain pose because as I was mentioning about 1 Kings 19, this is when Elijah was running, he was scared to death running from Jezebel. All right. And during this time, as he was running away, because all the other prophets were killed, he, went out in the desert. He was out there for several days. He was just asking God to just kill him. He's like, oh, I don't want this anymore. And then finally God had said to him, like, hey, stand in the mountain and wait for me. And a couple of things happened. He wanted him to wait for the Lord's presence. And this massive wind came by. It got so big, the earthquake, it actually shook the mountain, broke the rocks apart. Then there was earthquake, and then there was fire. And that's like for us, sometimes God needs to do something major to catch our attention. Maybe we had to have this crazy pandemic to catch our attention. But then what really happened was then he heard a small little whisper. And that's when Elijah went to the entrance of the cave, covered himself up with a cloak, and waited for God, because he knew then God was speaking to him. All those other things were catching his attention, and then it was the small little whisper. So as you're standing here, setting your intention, just breathing normally. A couple things you can always be assured of. My presence will go with you. I will always be with you. All right. our first breathing technique will be breath of joy, because we're going to do this standing up. We've done this beforehand. So breath of joy, if you want, you can actually have your feet at hip width apart. Make sure you have plenty of space behind you. So I'm going to describe this. So breath of joy is one of these things, especially if you're a little bit on the depressed side, a little bit down the dumps. You really want to kind of engage yourself, get a little bit more excitement, more energy. I mean, breath of joy, exactly what it sounds like. So a couple different things we're going to do. We're going to have your hands down by your side. When you inhale, you're going to bring your hands up to shoulder height up, palms facing up. And then you're going to do that's the first third of your breath. The other third goes to the side, wings outward. And then in the last one, your final third of breath. So this all inhales up, inhale all the way up. And then when you exhale, you're going to slightly bend your knees and you're going to start folding forward as you exhale out through your mouth. And then your hand's going to be behind you like a dive. So let me show you a couple different ways. So it goes like, I'm going to show you from the side. So you can stay down there as long as possible when you're really exhaling it all the way through. So a couple contraindications for this. If you have like high blood pressure or glaucoma, where all this really high energy as you're especially going to go in inversion, just stop. You don't have to do this at all, okay? You can just do your breath. You can even just breathe it with your hands and stuff like that. So we're going to do this several times. You can go to your own breath count. Everyone's going to breathe a little differently. So as you know, so again, inhale, inhale, inhale. Each time you're inhaling, it's getting more and more of the oxygen into your lungs, expansion, and then you exhale all the way out. Does that make sense? All right, ready? Let's go. You can go on your own. Ready? Inhale, inhale, inhale. And remember, when you're bending forward, exhaling, bend your knees, you're bending at your hips. So you're kind of expelling it all the way out. You can really feel it. So really nice engagement there. Pressing out all that carbon dioxide, getting out any of that old gunk. Bring in the new fresh air. And when you're ready, you can always stop and just feel yourself. You'll probably feel yourself kind of warm, a lot more energy. Great way to rejuvenate your entire body. So these next couple breath cycles that we're going to do, breath techniques, you're welcome to either keep standing up, but these you can also do seated in a chair or on the floor. So I'm going to go down to the floor. So it's your choice. You can do this standing or you can do this seated. It's up to your options. We've done these beforehand as well. So the other one is what we call the box breathing, the square breathing, the 4-count breath. This is a great way to really focus, kind of help also be calm. So again, find yourself a nice, comfortable seated position. If you're noticing that your knees are really high, I would suggest maybe putting a couple blankets underneath your hips just to lift it up. And what that does is it also allows that more space in your whole pelvis area. So that, of course, that's where your diaphragm is. And then also because it enables your pelvis to rotate, well, not rotate forward, but you can rotate so that now your spine is nice and elongated. So yeah, beautiful, excellent. So you can just keep your hands down at your thighs. You can do whatever you want with your hands. Again, same thing. Chin's nice parallel to the floor, crown of your head up toward heaven. And then what happens is as you inhale up to a count of 4, could be quick 4, then you hold it for a count of 4, then you exhale it to a count of 4, and then you hold it for a count of 4. Does that make sense? So I'll count it with you, but of course I can't be breathing then doing double counting. So we'll do this for a couple, two cycles, and then you can go to your own breath count because everyone's pace is different. So the reason why I hesitate when I do the counting, because then people think like, oh, I should be either counting that quickly or that slowly, and really you want what works for you. You're just trying to maintain those same four sides. Okay, does that make sense? So you may even want to envision in your mind as you inhale, like I always visualize inhaling, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, then I hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and as you exhale, I watch it go down and hold. All right, so we're gonna go. Ready? Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. On your own. All right. Now, I wonder, since we did the breath of joy beforehand, during this one, during the square breathing, it's funny because I felt so much energy going on that it took me a couple cycles before my body was kind of calming down. So you notice how this box breathing, the square breathing, the 4 count breath, it actually helps calm the body down. So the Navy SEAL uses this kind of a technique to be able to stay focused and of course calm before they start off on a mission. So you can see where if you're anxious or you really need to focus, this is a good technique to use. Whereas beforehand, if you're a little bit down and dump or you're just kind of lethargic or a little depressed, doing the breath of joy was a great way to really rejuvenate, get you more excited and upbeat. Because it's funny how like I can almost like within the after the by the second breath cycle of the box breathing, I was able to finally get my body to calm down. The other one that we're going to do, and we've done this a lot beforehand, is the alternate nostril breathing. So this is the one where we breathe in through our left nostril, and then we exhale through the right nostril, and then you can inhale through the right nostril, breathe out through the left nostril. There's a couple different ways to do this. People like to deliberately only breathe in through the left nostril, out the right nostril, in through the left nostril, out through the right nostril, and then vice versa. But what we're going to do is, just to make it more complicated, is, I know not to make it more complicated, but just to stay focused, is breathe in through the left nostril, out the right nostril, in through the right nostril, out through the left nostril. So the way to do this is you're going to use your right hand. You can have your thumb pressed up against your right nostril, and then it's going to be your ring finger of your right hand pressed press up against your left nostril when you're trying to exhale out the opposite one, the alternate nostril. So obviously, if you press both of them against your nostril, you're not going to be able to breathe at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale through your left nostril, and then open up your right nostril and let it out. Inhale through your right nostril, switch out, and exhale to the left. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. Ready, go. Inhale through your left nostril. Press the left nostril, open up your right nostril, exhale through the right nostril. Inhale through the right nostril. Press the right nostril, open up the left nostril, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Exhale through the left. Continue doing this for 7 more times on your own. And then when you're done, you can always just place your hands back onto the thighs. All right. So this is a wonderful way to kind of balance both your brain and also your body. And it's probably good because we tend to have one side that might be more dominant. So our left side is supposed to be our yin side, or our yang side is our right to cool your body, you know which side to breathe through if you want to heat up the body. And you may find out during the day, it actually changes. And sometimes you'll notice how one side might be more congested than the other side. It's a nice way to kind of balance out. Sometimes after using that breathing technique, you might need to have a tissue or something, especially if you were a little bit congested. All right, so let's just move our knees a little bit here, or move if your legs are extended, just kind of move around because sitting for a long time tends to kind of block your joints up a little bit. So feel free to do that. And then if you were seated cross-legged, you might want to switch your feet around. Now I'm like, I don't know which side I had in front of me. So that's my common side. so it's kind of good to kind of switch around that. All right. The other one we're going to do is our 4-7-8 breathing technique. Same thing. That means we inhale for the count of 4. You're going to retain it for the count of 7, and then you exhale it for the count of 8. So, like in most things, when you have a longer exhalation than your inhalation, that helps to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's supposed to get you nice and calm. Now, the 7 is retention. So again, if you have high blood pressure or anything like that, just either eliminate the retention and just do your breathing. If you start feeling a little woozy or dizzy, or let's say you have some breathing issues like maybe asthma, sometimes if you're not getting enough breath, just skip that out. Just allow yourself to have more inhalation. So you definitely want to have more oxygen coming to your lungs. Okay, so I just want to make sure you have those different awareness for what is your own condition. So again, these techniques are for different situations, but since we are uniquely created, make sure that you choose what is best for yourself. All right. So with 3-part breathing, what you may want to do is place your tongue at the roof of your mouth, right behind the 2 front teeth. And just breathe in through your nose. And as you exhale, kind of whoosh it out through your mouth. You still have that on there. So you can kind of sense a little difference there. Okay, so now when we're going to breathe in for a 4 count or a 3-part breathing, just breathe in and then a little bit more, a little bit more. So our breathe in for 4, and then we're going to retain for 7, and then exhale, you whoosh it out through your mouth. So again, since it's an 8 count, you're going to go slowly, because if you whoosh it out all at the end, you're going to be like at the end. So ready? So inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do it on your own, and you can change it. You could go faster or slower. All right. Do you guys feel good? All right, so you can always do that. You don't want to do it too many times, but you can do that periodically through the day. So the last one we're going to do before we get into restorative is Bumblebee Breath. So we've done this one beforehand. It's a great way, especially with spring being here. I've already seen a bumblebee or two. What we're going to do is I'm going to explain it first. And you inhale through your nose. As you exhale, you're going to keep your lips together and just kind of hum. So allow the air to kind of go out through your mouth, but with your mouth closed. So when that happens, you're going to be humming like, hmm. All right. So that's what's going to happen. And do it as long as possible until you have no air whatsoever left in your body. Now, to make sure that you feel the sensation, because this vibrational sound is really good, but the vibrational motion is actually really good. And you're going to feel it even into your throat chakra. But to really sense it, what you're going to do is you're going to place your index finger pressing up to what's called I think it's a vagus area. No, tagus. And so that's a little piece on the ear that's kind of flaps there. You're going to kind of push it in gently. You're not really squeezing it. And so when you exhale, just keep it in there. So once you do that, you're not going to hear me. So you can inhale through your nose, and then you just hum like a bumblebee, and then just keep doing it until we'll do this for 5 times. Okay? Ready? Go ahead. All right, so that's going to be the end of our different breathing techniques. That's clearly not all of them. There's a bunch of them. But I don't know about you, but I have the same kind of sensation that I did for Breath of Joy. But with Breath of Joy, I kind of felt like I got a little bit more on the hyper side. So if you have anxiety, maybe the Breath of Joy is something that you don't want to overstimulate your body, versus this one gives you that same kind of calm but happy. I mean, it's Bumblebee. I mean, no wonder they're happy. So that might be a little bit more calming to you. All right, so let's get ready for our restorative. If you have any props, I'd like for you to actually just have it in front of you. So we're gonna be in caterpillar, so extend your legs in front of you. We're gonna fold forward. And if you want to, you can still have maybe blankets or something underneath your hips, especially if you have tight hamstring or maybe ran for hundreds of miles or something like that, hypothetically speak. But the other thing you might want to do is, especially if you have a tendency of wanting to try to get your body to touch whatever it is in front of you, you can place a block underneath it. You can pile on a bunch of pillows, a bunch of things. But restorative is to allow, mainly for any of the props, is just to allow your body to make contact with it, and that sense of touch tends to uh, communicate to your muscles to say like it's okay, you can relax. It's to have that kind of support. So let's just get ready. So we're going to check your feet. So your toes should be straight up. If you notice your feet kind of goes outward to the side or inward, position it so maybe it's a little bit wider out or something like that, so that you're kind of protecting those joints as well. And then you can just kind of fold forward. Now let's say you're folding forward and you're not even making contact to it. That's okay. You can either place your hands on top of it so that it's relaxed. Again, a lot of times we have our hands into like our forearms, and then maybe your shoulders or something feels scrunched up. You can kind of position it down. You can position maybe blocks underneath that or other pillows or cushions onto it to allow that the shoulders to kind of stay open, keeping those angel wings behind you. So you feel free to do that. I would say I will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint.
So as we are in restorative yoga, one of the things I want to share with you is this restoring your spirit. A lot of times we're in different situations, things are vying for attention. Could be, what's going on in our own, at work or maybe at home or just what's going on in the world. We could be faced with a lot of different things demanding our attention and causing us a little bit of anxiety or not staying connected with God. And so, a couple of different steps that we could do. Rest is always the most important thing. Rest is so important. There's a reason why, even after God created everything, heaven and earth, on the seventh day, he said it was a day of rest. It was holy. So God even wants us to make sure that we rest. Here's a reason why at the end of any yoga practice, we always have Shavasana. It's that the final dead corpse pose, but it's the rest. I mean, we think in terms of, when people die, that's the end, but actually, that's just a rest from this life, our vessel here. And really, we know that we have eternal life through Christ. So, death isn't something for us to fear. It is just a final resting pose for our life here on earth. So make sure you have rest. But then the next one you want to do is reconnect with God. What better way for us to restore our spirit than to reconnect with God? And that's with either prayer, meditation, and on his words, just listening, hearing what he has to say, speaking and sharing what's in our heart. He already knows what's in our heart, but once we take that step to share vocally with him, he now realizes, and you now realize, we all realize that we have that reconnection, that we want to keep that relationship going. So that's the incredible way to reconnect with God. And then, of course, reconnect with people. And we do this, even if it's only virtually, but you can reconnect with other people. What better way to see how people are doing? It really, you can feel sometimes God places people in your path, or God placed you in someone else's path for exactly that reason. Let's slowly come on up. Start walking your body upward. Place your hands behind you so that your fingers point toward your hips, and squeeze your shoulder blades toward each other. And maybe just lift your heart up toward heaven. Expand your lungs. Beautiful. And then we're going to bring your legs together. You're going to stack it so that your knees are stacked on top of each other to one side. If you have a blanket or pillow or anything like that, we're just going to go along the side. We're going to do a spinal twist of some sort, okay? So again, you don't have to have bolsters, but if you have something just to elevate it upward from the body, then that helps a lot. So this is where you're going to have your knees stacked on top of each other, your feet stacked, so you're kind of in a 90 to 90 degree angle. You're going to bring, so it doesn't matter which side. So either, right now I happen to have my left hip up against my bolster. If you have your right side, that's okay, but just make sure we're doing the opposite side. You're going to start walking your hand alongside of whatever prop you're using, and then you're going to deliberately have it so that your stomach is resting on top of that. So that way you're getting the little guidance. Now, a couple of things. If you want to also get a cervical spinal twist, then you have your gaze over to away from where your knees are at. But again, listen to your own body. For some people, this is really intense. I know my own neck. One side, I'm definitely not going to do that. But I think I'm going to be a little more gentle today. So I'm going to actually have the ears so that my head is in the same direction as where my knees are at. And so you may feel like a slight little pull along your lower back. Nice little spinal twist. If you feel like it's a little too intense, just add something else underneath your prop so that you don't have to go down so deep then. So again, listen to your own body. in the future, other options is, let's say you have your knees, it might feel more comfortable to place maybe a small cushion or another blanket or something between your knees. And then what you'll notice is that allows your hips to not have that internal rotation. That's another option. Some people don't like to have their ankles stacked on top of each other, so you can always have a block or maybe one of those toilet papers, and then have your upper ankle kind of like just leaning on top of toilet paper or another block instead of your other ankle. Different options for you to do on your own. So I was mentioning as far as restoring your spirit. Of course, we said first was rest, then reconnect with God, reconnect with people. The other thing is releasing. Releasing. Sometimes we don't realize it, but we hold on to things. We may be holding on to anger, bitterness. We may be holding on to things from the past. And if that is, I mean, that's very common. It's very normal to do that. But if it doesn't provide you with a way to move forward, it's holding you in the past, if it's preventing you from experiencing what has been promised to you, then it's important for you to say like, oh, I need to be able to release it. Now that's easier said than done. So this is where you go back to praying for God, spending time with God, and saying like, asking for discernment, understanding, and actually His guidance. And sometimes that releasing is just physical. So if it's muscle related, then of course releasing is really important. And so a lot of things that we do in yoga classes, we seem to address the physical needs, but we also know it's important for our emotional and our mental needs. So, things that we dwell on over and over and over again, it's okay. We don't have to be perfectionists. In fact, no one is perfect except for Jesus. And thank God, I mean, literally, thank God that He sent Jesus for us. All right, we're going to slowly walk our hands underneath our shoulders and lift ourselves up. Now, some of you guys want to stay in your position. I know you really like that. I'll stick with the resting side. So if you want, you can do one or two things. If you want, you can actually go behind and just kind of get some motion in it. If you want to do some windshield wipers with your legs, your knees. Then we're going to do the opposite side. So whichever side you were on, make sure you do the opposite side. Tell you what, I'm going to switch mine around so my voice is going to be facing that way then. So same thing, once you're stacked up, and in my case, because my knees and everything's wider, like for some people, they might want to put a little cushion or a pillow or something between their ankles. That might be a little bit more supportive, and it's kind of fun to do later on. So I'll just go down on the other side. As I mentioned about releasing, can you release any tension? So do you have any tension in your jaw or your shoulders? Can you release it? Maybe it might be the positioning of where your hands are relative to um, your prop. You know, feel free to move it around a little bit, see if you can kind of release any of that tension. That's the beautiful thing. As we continue practicing, we become more aware of where we may be holding tension, both from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental and emotional standpoint. And one thing I notice is sometimes when I feel tension, you know, associated sometimes when I get a call from someone, and what I notice is if I think all of a sudden straight to God, I notice that I actually don't have that same kind of anxiety, I would say. And I actually now look forward to the conversation with the person because God's like, hey, and there's a reason why I want you to be picking up this phone or when you happen to see someone. So it's amazing how that release, just by reconnecting with God, it shows how they're all interconnected. So another step in restoring the spirit is, I mentioned beforehand, rest, reconnect with God, reconnect with people, releasing, and then re-energizing your purpose. What has God called you to do? And I'm not talking from your entire life calling, but maybe just for even that day. You start the day asking God, like, what would you want me to do today? Is there anything you want me to do? Kind of like the way when Elijah was at the mountain entrance of the cave, and God said to him, what are you doing here? Elijah knew exactly what God wanted him to do. He's like, look, you can trust me. You know what I want you to do. I will always be with you. I will give you rest. We're gonna slowly walk our hands up underneath your shoulders, going back up. So up. All right. Same thing, one windshield wiper. You know, we don't have to worry about a big rainstorm. However, you can have this on gentle, light, because it is important to have rain. How else do we water those plants? All right, so the next one we're gonna do is the one where it's your prop can be underneath your chest to be in a fish pose. So you can either use a block or a little blanket or anything like that. You can go along back here, or if you prefer, you can do this as Queen's pose. Queen's pose is the one where you're just laying on it. You may want to have another block. You want it just like that, that's fine. That's another option. So you can have your blanket straight across, diagonal, and then maybe put something else up there. So you just get a little slight incline. The purpose of that is to open up the chest, have your shoulders behind you. Okay, so you can do something like that. If you want to still make this, and it's yogi's choice, if you want to have it so their hip flexors are open up, you can always have your feet in Baddha Konasana, the cobbler's pose, the butterfly pose, with the soles of your feet toward each other. But the other way to open up the chest is, especially if you don't have a bolster, is just put a blanket or a towel straight horizontal across underneath the area where your bra strap normally would reside, and then you can have it that way. I personally like that a lot. But for me, if I'm on a block, it's too intense for my neck, so I have another block, or I could do a blanket or a pillow. This is where you have your palms up toward heaven to receive, and talk about a nice way to release. All right, maybe if you had your soles of feet together with your knees apart, you can just gently bring your knees together. Gradually remove yourself from your props. If it's underneath you, just be very mindful when you remove it. You're gonna get back onto your back. This time we're gonna do a little bit of foot inversion. So if you're up against the wall, you're more than welcome to use your leg up the wall or just have your legs straight up. And then you may want to have it positioned so that your bolster or your prop will be able to be underneath where your knees are at later on when we get into our final resting pose. So if you want, you can kind of get it positioned now so that you don't have to like get out of position later on. I actually sleep with a pillow underneath my knees. I think my husband doesn't like it because it takes a little bit of space. So find where your knees will be underneath under over whatever prop you're using, so it's perfect position. And then where your back is at, just lift it up so that your legs are straight up, soles of your feet up toward heaven. No disrespect forward. And then again, you might be tight, so your knees can be bent completely fine. We're just getting a little bit of inversion, letting some of the lymphatic fluids kind of flow down. You're always welcome to go to a wall or a chair or the side of a couch or something like that. Or if you happen to have a strap, you can always loop it around and just kind of hang it out there. It's always a wonderful way, truly restorative. If you made a large loop and it's just resting underneath your hips, it would support you up there as well, or even underneath your looped around the back of your body through your armpits. And then when you're ready, you can slowly lower it down so that it is now in your final resting pose, but with knees bent. Visit yourself. See if you can tuck in those angel wings. And check to make sure that your forehead is at least probably in the same height, or I should say, yeah, same height as where your chin is at. If you need to, place a blanket or something underneath it to lift it up if you're noticing it's way, way low and your jaw's jutting upward. And your palms face upward as well to receive. And then you can just close your eyes. You're always welcome to place something over your eyes, like an eye pillow or just a small little towel or cloth. Just close your eyes if you prefer. If you don't like having your eyes closed, you can always keep it open. And just imagine as you're laying here, I like the way we started at the beginning of class. You were standing, and this time now you're lying down, lying down. And you remember what your intention was. And you feel your breath as it enters through your nose, expanding through your lungs, pressing the diaphragm down and rise, your belly rising. And you feel the energy going through the rest of your body as a result of that. You feel the presence of the Lord with you, the love He has for you, the desire to hear what you have to say, help release anything from you that's not serving you, so that your spirit is restored. Is there anything else that you can release? Any tension in your body? Any thoughts in your mind that might be just preventing you from being completely at peace? Going to bring some awareness back into your body. Going to wiggle our fingers and our toes gently. And start rotating your ankles and your wrists. Nice and slowly. Maybe even in the opposite direction. If you like, you can inhale your arms over your head. If you want, you can even maybe roll whatever is underneath you. So maybe bend your knees a little bit more so. And with your knees bent, the soles of your feet on the floor, you're going to slowly roll over to your right side. And keep your head over that right hand so that your cervical spine is still in alignment. Keep your eyes closed. Stay here for a couple more breaths. Using your upper arms, press yourself up in a comfortable seated position. Hands down by your side, palms facing upward. Let's have 3 nice, great breath here. Deep inhale here through your nose. Exhale, open mouth breath fully. Another deep inhale here. Complete exhale, open mouth. Last time. Inhale here. Full exhale. Floating your hands together, palms touching palm, thumb rest right above your heart. Tuck your chin down toward your heart. May this practice provide you with the knowledge, all these different breath techniques, knowing that God breathed life into us, knowing that God's presence is always with us to give us rest, for us to be able to restore our soul through Him. Thank you for coming. Namaste.